Let's make some noise. Come on.
Thank you very much once again, Nick Foles, and welcome back, everybody, to another fun-filled episode of The Final Word with your boy, MattyB, here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network on this Wednesday, July the 9th, and unfortunately, probably the last show of our broadcast week. Yes, I know it's not Thursday, but tomorrow's probably not going to work out the way I want it to work out, so I probably will not be able to broadcast tomorrow night due to some other obligations. So this could be, and more than likely will be, our final episode of the week. But that's okay. We're going to make the best of it because we got some positivity to spread here on the program tonight. We got some feel-good vibes to spread on the program. The Philadelphia Phillies today, as has been their MO all season long, they go into the doldrums for a bit, and then they bust out with a big-time offensive production. 13-0 winners today in the Bay Area over the San Francisco Giants. Bryce Harper, probably his most offensive productive day since, 2022, as he set a career mark for the first time in his career. He hit 4 extra base hits in one game. Kyle Schwarber also comes back with a nice home run, backed up by a quality start for the first time in a hot minute by Jesus Luzardo. 7 strong, solid innings. Phillies take the 13-0 win, salvage a game of the series, and now we'll move on to the plush locale of Southern California and San Diego to finish up their pre-All-Star break festivities against the Padres. And Phillies conversation will definitely be on the table tonight as our lead topic, but of course, not limited to that. We're going to fill in the blanks tonight as well on our MattyB's greatest trades in Phillies history. We're going to reveal number 2 and number 1 as we'll round out that list. Our card review of the night, and I think we do. Do we have another? Do I have another? No, I don't. We've already gone through the Phillies college stuff, but we'll we'll profile something tonight. Maybe we'll talk Phillies prospects tonight. There you go. For the of the night segment. So we're going to try to make this as entertaining as you possibly can make it on a Wednesday night. We're going to have the most fun you can have on a Wednesday night in the history of the world. In the history of the world. So let's get it rocking and rolling here on the program tonight. Hey, Mickey, how are you? Welcome back to the program. Joe Hale. Joe, what's up, brother? How are you? Ryan Swope says, hey, Matty, what's going on? Put in the link. I've not determined whether I want to go live tonight. We'll see. Or not live, but if I want to open up the phone lines, Ryan, give me a minute. Kind of think it over. Not that I'm pressed for time, nor is it do I not want to hear from you people. I, of course, want to hear from you, but just give me a minute to think about that. Luzardo looked good today, Joe Hale. He did, and the first time in a long time, and maybe I can stop riding Luzardo's back for a while. Maybe not. Definitely a needed start for the Phillies for a lot of different reasons. One, getting him back on the winning ways, getting him back on the more dominant winning ways, saving the bullpen for a day, giving them a day off. And maybe to a lesser extent for me personally, to sort of kind of still drive my narrative that pitching is not the problem here. Pitching has never been the problem with this team. Even though we do have our ups and downs with the staff at times, Luzardo's been that figure this year, and then you got the Taijuan Walker situation, who pitched okay yesterday, and that wacky walk-off inside the park home run game. But by the way, I'm going to provide a little detail to that game because that game was won by the Giants was somewhat payback by the Giants for some walk-off home run doings of the Phillies to the Giants in the past. We'll discuss that a little bit later on the show. But Taijuan Walker pitched well, for what Taijuan Walker can provide. And Jesus Luzardo came in tonight and pitched really well. So it strengthens my narrative that the pitching situation for this team, to include the bullpen. And yeah, I know it's the much maligned bullpen, and I'm not sitting here telling you that I wouldn't like to add an arm or two. But even if left alone and left as is, and I honestly believe this, if left as is, pitching holistically for this team is not the problem. It's the damn offense. It's the streaky ass score 4 runs in 6 games and then score 13 runs in 1 game offense. It's the 0 for 26 with runners in scoring position through 3 games. And what was it? 6 for 17 today with runners in scoring position. That's what's going to keep this team away from World Series glory. And no matter what you want to hear or what you want to listen to or what people are going to try to tell you, to me, it's the offense, and it will always be the offense. This is the offense is the most prolific part of this team. It's where the most money is invested in, and up to this point, to include the last few seasons, it's what's failed us the most. So it was good to see them come out of it, but again, if you look at this thing through stats, if you look at it broken down, we're 12 games now into the second half. We're 12 games into the official second half of the season. The Phillies have now scored, they've had 2 games where they've scored 13 runs in 1 game. They had the Braves game, which was the first game of the second half, and they have this game. That's 26 runs in those 2 games. Spread out over the other 10 games, the Phillies have scored 8 runs. Or maybe 13 runs. So 26 runs in 2 games and 13 runs through 10 games. If that's not the model of inconsistency, then I don't know what is. And that's because that scares me about this team, because I don't have, or the Phillies, I should say, don't have 6-7 games to figure it out if they go back into one of these little slides in the playoffs. They don't have 5 or 6 games to battle their way out of it. So to me, it's always been going to be the offense. And yes, as encouraging as watching them go off for 13 runs against Justin Verlander and the Giant bullpen, again, following the MO of this team, doing just enough, or maybe hanging in there against the team starting pitcher and then feasting on bullpens. As good as it was to see that, it still gives me pause. And it still gives me concern because they're not doing it consistently. And now, am I saying go ahead and score 13 runs a game every day? Yeah, no, but that'd be nice. But that's not real. That's not realistic. I get it. But there's just no, it's feast or famine. It's all or nothing with this team. And that's dangerous in the playoffs, man. Dangerous. So, but all's well tonight as Phillies win 13-0, salvaging the 1 game against the Giants. And I know, being the fact that it was on the West Coast, and I was on last night prior to the end of the game, hadn't had an opportunity to comment on the wacky walk-off and the shoddy defense once again, and then the Jordan Romano, bashing that I've heard all day today. Was Jordan Romano put in the best position in that game to try to get 5 outs? No, he wasn't. And you know what? Why was not Orion Kirkering available? Was he really gassed from the other night? I don't agree with the way, and this is not a Rob Thompson thing per se. The bullpen with no roles definitely is a Rob Thompson thing, but the attitude towards pitchers is not Rob Thompson. In this new era of baseball, they treat these kids like they're porcelain dolls. They really do, and I get it. I get you're looking at the longevity of a situation. You're looking at a longevity of a player's career. You're looking at the longevity of a season. But God forbid, man, if you can't, as a Major League Baseball pitcher, relief type, if you can't pitch in back-to-back games, you might need to take a serious look at yourself in the mirror. Now, apparently, there were some reports that came out that he was sore. Kirkland was sore after the game the other night. So I guess that's one thing. But if you're telling me that pitchers in the past, and I'm not even talking relievers, man. I'm talking starters. Back in the day, in the 60s and the 70s, back in the good old days when I was just a ute. These guys, what's Jim Bunny have, 265 career complete games? I mean, I'm sure he was sore every now and again. I'm sure they were all sore. But they pitched their way out of it, man. And I understand. I get it. Medical technology and awareness is at an all-time high right now. I understand, but come on, man. You're telling me, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a dinosaur. What do they say? I'm a analog watch in a digital world. I don't know, but I don't get that. But so the walk-off home run that the Giants won on last night, I remember this throughout my life because that's how kind of a pointless life I live. This is an interesting fact. 2 times in the past, the Phillies have done the same thing to the Giants. Back in 1989 at the Vet, Bob Denier, remember Bob Denier? Walked off a inside the park home run against the Giants at Veterans Stadium. And then in 2000, Bobby Abreu did it to the Giants again at Veterans Stadium. So watching that thing kind of happen last night, as kooky and wacky as it was, yeah, a little bit payback, I guess, for the Giants. The Phillies have done that to them twice in their history playing together. So it was wacky. It was weird, but it is what it is. But they repaid the Giants in kind today by winning 13-0. Psych. It's a good win. It was a good win. Any win's a good win. Michael Kaepernick, any win's a good win. So let's take pause right now. Let's take pause and let's talk a little bit about let's do our let's get our show started. So let's strap it in, strap it on, strap it up, and keep your hands, head, and feet inside the car at all times. And here we go with your day in Philadelphia sports history. On July 9th, 1933, after a 2-year absence from the National Football League, Philadelphia reacquired a team. On this date, 1933, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, which folded due to poor attendance, sold its territorial rights to Burt Bell and Lou Ray, and the Philadelphia Eagles were born. Since only the rights to the field, a team in the Philadelphia market changed hands, the NFL treats the Yellow Jackets and Eagles as 2 separate teams. So happy birthday, Philadelphia Eagles, born on this day in 1933. Very interesting fact. A lot of people look at the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets as the precursor to the Eagles, which I guess they are. But as you heard from that little factoid, the NFL treats the franchises as 2 separate. So essentially today, 1933, the Philadelphia Eagles were born, and they've been giving us nothing but success and joy ever since. And but coming off of a Super Bowl season now, they're second in franchise history, with a unique opportunity resting at the feet of the Philadelphia Eagles to potentially start a dynasty in 2025. I don't think they are, but they have that ability. And of course, we'll get the talk going very soon, sooner than later, as the NFL season is bearing down on us. Training camp here in a couple weeks. So it's all about to start again. But yes, happy birthday to the Philadelphia Eagles, as they were born on this day back in 1933. And that is your day in Philadelphia sports history. Ryan says the bullpen is a problem. Again, Ryan, I just kind of went over a little bit of a rant about that. Is it a solution or is it a strength of this team? No. But there's really nothing I would consider a strength in this team other than the starting pitching. And unfortunately, due to the fact that we are in season, you're going to have to pick your poison with the other 2 areas that are not good, because I don't think they both can be adequately addressed. There could be a Band-Aid slapped upon them. There could be some risky, unwise trades made to try to, salvage the season type of situation. But as far as adequately fixing both the other 2 problem areas, and again, I'm not defaming or denouncing the bullpen issues. I'm still waiting on the replacement for for Jose Alvarado. Who's the replacement for him? Alvarado hasn't pitched in like 6 weeks. Where's his replacement, and why is he not here yet? And I'm not talking Seth Johnson or David Robert. I'm talking a legitimate, back end bullpen guy. Why we've waited this long and still yet no replacement. So yes, I agree. There is a problem there. But does the offensive problems, does that trump the bullpen problems? Because again, I just don't think you can take care of everything adequately in season. Yeah, you can slap some Band-Aids on it, but it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you some assets in the future that you may or may not regret. And that's the beautiful thing about prospects and assets, is that you don't know where they're going to work out. But if you're going to hold a gun to my head and say, I got to fix one area, and I got to fix one area right now, and I can only fix one area, I'm going offense, because I think the Phillies, even with the ship-shoddy bullpen, still have enough pitching to get them through to where they got to be based on the other teams around Major League Baseball. So I agree, though. The bullpen is a problem. But hitting an inconsistent ups and downs, streakiness of highs and lows offense, yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Joe Hale's got some breaking news. The MLB, breaking news on MLB, the new challenge system will be used this Sunday. That's an interesting oddity. So the ABS system is going into effect for a one-game only Sunday, day before the All-Star break. I got to check that, Joe Hale. That's interesting. That'd be cool. I mean, they got training on it. They did it all throughout spring training, so we'll see. But if that's correct, that's good. That's good stuff. The bats and bullpen and Robbie not knowing how to manage outside of analytics, which has let us down and most likely will. Oh, 100%. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. But I agree with you there. Rob Thompson couldn't manage his way out of a wet paper bag. 100%. And when the chips are down and we are faced on the brink of elimination and Rob's got to make that one move, who has faith and confidence that he makes the right one? I agree. There's definitely that. But again, if I'm lining them up in order from the most pressing need to the least pressing need, offense is right up there for me in the top of that list, because I am not feeling warm and fuzzy that the offense can find any sort of consistency at the right time and do what they're supposed to be doing at the right time. And if they can, then yes, the sky is the limit for this team, because I think their offense can overpower any pitching issues that they may have. So, but you're right. There's more than just the bullpen, and there's more than just offense. You got the Rob Thompson effect, and maybe again, I look at this stuff holistically. If you have enough offense, it takes away the reliability or relying upon your pitching. And it also takes the Rob Thompson effect out of it too, because Rob doesn't have to make any critical in-game decisions like, oh, I don't know, removing Zach Wheeler in Game 6 of the World Series, or I don't know, going back-to-back with what's his name, Kimbrel in the 2023 NLCS. Those types of situations that seem to kind of always work out against us because Rob seems to always mishandle the situation. So I think if you put all your eggs, and again, this is a short-term fix. And honestly, who you bring in offensively to help out, that's a whole other, I don't know, because I don't know who you can pry away. I mean, I don't know. I would love to be able to sit here and tell you, go after this guy, this guy, this guy. But legitimately, I mean, Rafael Devers would have been nice. Obviously, he was up for trade, but that would have been a nice move for the Phillies. Somebody along those lines. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a Cedric Mullins. I'm looking for a Rafael Devers type of trade. I want someone that's going to come in here and change the offensive inconsistencies, not someone that's going to be not part of it, but like a long shot. I need an actual guy that can come in here and provide a significant change to the offense. And I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. And I don't know if Dave Dombrowski knows or cares. But anyway, if you're asking me to stack them in order, to me, it's offense. Number one, top of the list. You unlock the offense. You unlock the secret to that. You bring in some help there. You put them in the right lineup, positioning, whatever. I think everything else will be overridden by the offense, honestly. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Bingo. All or nothing. It is all or nothing with this team. It's very frustrating. Hey, Ricky Deal, what is going on tonight, my main man? How are you? I haven't seen you around lately, Ricky. Everything okay? Now it's all about the velocity and radar guns. What the hell are you talking about? Now it's all about, yeah, it's true. About the way they treat these pitchers. I agree. I'm tired of hearing about the Phillies in a 2022 run to the World Series, but in my opinion, the team has regressed, losing the pennant. And Michael, you're not going to get an argument from me. Absolutely. And as far as the 2022 World Series goes, I think that why it's so stuck in my mind still is because it was the trigger point to all this. In 2022, I remember the season well because it was the first year of the Titans final, which I had the privilege and honor to take through 162 games on my own. And watching this team sort of transform throughout that season, especially after Joe Girardi was fired. It was special because the Phillies maybe didn't have legitimate World Series expectations heading into the season, but there was some talk of it. With the Schwarber and Castellanos, JT, Harper, we had the pieces there to potentially make a run, and it was all about maybe getting some pitching to click in, and then also getting some luck, and then all that happened once Girardi was fired. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I had World Series expectations in 2022 and that I was not pleasantly surprised by the outcome of 2022 overall, regardless of losing the World Series. I was. But it was the trigger point. It's the trigger point to all this. It's ever since that point, you knew the Phillies had what it took to get to the World Series. So now it's about getting back there and finishing the job. So I still think about it, still talk about it, because it's the start point to all this. And now here we are, as you adequately described, 3 years later, and there's been nothing but a steady regression in the postseason. Losing in the NLCS, which losing in that NLCS to me was worse than losing the World Series in 22. The way they lost that NLCS was probably one of the worst, not as bad as Black Friday and all that, but I mean, kind of up there for me. I mean, you blow a 3-2 lead, and where all you had to do was win 1 of 2 at home. I mean, it don't get more gut-wrenching than that for me. So that 2023 NLCS was probably the worst out of all of it, but it was a regression point. And then last year was even more of a regression point, losing in the NLDS. So I get not wanting to hear about it anymore. And because people sometimes talk like 2022, like we won the World Series, which we did not, and get a little twisted about that. But to me, it's a trigger point for all this. And until this era is done with, and hopefully it ends in a World Series at some point, because I still think there's time, if things are done properly this offseason and some hard decisions are made of moving on from some people. And I still think there's time to salvage this core of players. And I think, honestly, and this might be a hot take, and I don't know how it's going to be taken, but if Dave Dombrowski, if he has any pulse or any finger on the pulse of this team, and if he sees that because again, I'm not involved in negotiations at this point. I've never done stuff like this before, but I assume Dave Dombrowski has. He's been in this type of position for a lot of years with many different ball clubs. Does he have a good sense on whether or not Kyle Schwarber's coming back next year? And the same thing with Ranger, right? And honestly, I like to believe in a perfect world he does have a good sense, whether it's a yes or a no at this point. Because how much more of a situation, or how much more of a like how much more time would you need to ascertain this from your players? But in the Kyle Schwarber thing, if there's a chance, and I mean a good chance, or if there's a good gut feeling out there that he's not coming back, why not move Kyle Schwarber in the trade deadline? Why not move him to recomp some assets? And don't forget, you could also start renegotiations with him at the end of the season to potentially bring him back, or sit him down and say, Kyle, listen, I'm up against the wall here, man. I got no viable assets to move. I need multiple players to help out this team. If you'd be so inclined to allow me to trade you, and then hopefully get a boatload for you, some players to help me out now, and potentially some prospects as well, I swear to God, day one of free agency, I'll sit down with you and we'll hammer out a deal and bring you back. I mean, without trying to, because everyone's got all these big time wants and desires for certain players. I just don't know how we're gonna flip people for that. Kyle Schwarber could be a chip in that, and it would be a rental player type situation for Schwarber going somewhere else. And I know it's sort of out there because Kyle Schwarber has been the most consistent bat we've had, but that means he's probably the most desired tradable asset we have. He's got an expiring contract, and he's turned his life around in terms of being a consistent hitter. Could he help the Phillies out more down the stretch run, being a trade target or a trade piece, than he could being in this lineup? And as I said, it doesn't have to be permanent. You can sit down with him in the offseason and hammer out a new contract and bring him right back. I'm just thinking, man, because if everybody else wants all these great, type of, grandiose deals. Oh, I want, and again, going on my own, Rafael Devers type trade. Well, but we don't have the players that are going to bring those type of players back. But if Kyle Schwarber was available, man, I don't know, man. I don't think it's too far out there. I mean, this city would freak the hell out if that happened. But that would be shrewd, man. Did I ever play quarterback? Like what, in a street touch football game or on the playground? Yeah. Or in the NFL? No. No, I never made it to the NFL. I didn't make it out of high school. Yeah, I played quarterback. Dabbled. I've heard that before. Where was this all series? Saward, it's a great question. And not so much all series, but for the first 12 games of this second half, I mentioned this. The Phillies have scored 26 runs, 13 runs twice through the first 12 games of the second half of the season. And then collectively through the other 10 games, I think it's like 12 or 13 runs. So and this is the problem, though, Star Wars. This is the maddening facet of this baseball team. It's you can't set your watch by it. You can't wrap anything. You can't wrap your head around it. It's just extremely frustrating, and it's too up and friggin' down. It's too up and down to sit here and say they're a World Series contender. It's too up and down to sit here and say they're not a World Series contender. It's really a hair on fire type of way to run a ball club and also be a fan of a ball club. And if they could find a way to get some consistency, they could find a way to level out the 13 runs in one game and maybe spread them out to 5.5 through 4 games. I think we'd all be happier. They said it'll be used at the All-Star game. Well, there you go. Maybe this is a prelude of things to come. As I said, I've 100% support the ABS system. I think it'll be another tool to aid the umpires and to getting the call right. And I'm all about getting the call right. Not going to be. It's not going to use the All-Star game. It's going to be used at the All-Star game, not Sunday. Okay. Well, that makes more sense, Mickey. I mean, just to pick a random game out of the schedule and say we're going to run ABS. That doesn't. That seemed a little weird. But hey, either way, again, I'm not. That's fine if that's what they're going to use, the ABS system at the All-Star game. Again, the All-Star game obviously not having any sort of impact on wins or losses or schedules or records or playoff positioning and what have you. It's the perfect way to use that. And that's fine. Again, I don't expect the ABS system to be incorporated into everyday baseball life until the new CBA is due, which is December 1st, 2026 is when the current CBA expires. So I don't know what the process is of getting a new CBA in play. I would hope that they're working on one right now. I'm sure ABS is going to be part of that. The umpires just signed a new contract with Major League Baseball not too long ago, like a couple months ago. So they're in for the next, whatever, I think it's 7 years on the contract. So they're not going anywhere. But, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Get ABS up and running, man. Of course, it can be 100% effective. And not 99.9, I mean 100. Oh, now you guys are being nice and cordial. Matty, every time Topper starts a bench guy, it's 2 or 3. It's never just one bench guy. Why not alternate a bench guy? Why always 2 or 3 in the same game? You'd have to ask Rob's binder, I guess. I don't know. I don't know the question or the answer to that. You would think that today it probably should have been about 4, right? If on a normal situation, if there wasn't a day game or a night game yesterday. Well, what was Rafael Marchant doing in a game last night and not today? Rob's his ass backwards, man. They gave the starting catcher off last night and played the starting catcher this morning, which makes some sense because of an off day tomorrow. But again, Ryan, this goes well on the same lines of why Rob Thompson, which is a problem on this team. He's on that list. He's a little further down the list, but he's a problem on this team. It's because we've seen him use JT Realmuto, or we've seen him sit JT Realmuto the day before an off day before, but this time they didn't do that. We've seen it multiple times where JT is sat because of a day game right before an off day, and now he's playing on a day game. Of course, he sat at the night game, which again, I'm using JT as an example here. It's not like it's a big loss for me, even though he had a pretty decent day, but it's not really a big loss for me. But you're gonna have to ask Rob's binder. I honestly don't have the answer to that question. I don't. Rob's binder does. Ask if you can borrow it. Flip to page 9, subsection 4, paragraph 6. Just say. Schwarber needs to stop trying to swing for the fence. Why? Star Wars, buddy, I don't know if you were here for the show the other day, and I had a revelation. God spoke to me in a dream. He spoke to me. He took me by the hand and he said, "Come with me, my son, and we have to talk." And what he talked to me about, he said, "Stop getting frustrated about the Phillies lineup." And all the things God could talk to me about, he's talking to me about the Phillies lineup. And he said, the players that are in this lineup are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're power hitters. That's all they are. And every single one of them is power hitting or attempting to power hit. To ask them to do anything else goes against their character, their DNA, and their baseball life. So stop getting frustrated and accept them for what they are. Power hitters. They're going to swing for the fences. And it got me to thinking. And I said, Lord, thank you. Thank you for enlightening me so that I may take this message back to the flock. And that's what I did. So, Star Wars, I get what you're saying, but I'm stopped. I am halting. I am putting the brakes on all this frustration. I'm not getting upset. I'm not getting mad anymore. I'm not getting mad when Bryce Harper's up there tomahawk chopping with a runner on third and one out. I'm not going to get mad anymore with that because that's what Bryce Harper is. I'm not going to get mad with Kyle Schwarber up there swinging for the fences. I'm not going to do that anymore because that's what Kyle Schwarber is. My point is, asking them to be anything other than that is worse than asking them to be what they are. This lineup is criminally unstructured, imbalanced. All right. It's not their fault. They didn't know this was going to be what it is. They took the money and they ran with it. The people that put him here are the ones to blame for this. And that's not even Rob Thompson, actually. That's Dombrowski. Right? So don't get mad at them for them being what they are. What's the old story about the snake, or not the snake, but the frog and the scorpion? The frog wants to get across the scorpion wants to get across the lake or the stream. And he goes to the frog and says, "Hey, would you give me a ride across the stream on your back? I don't know how to swim." And the frog's like, "Why would I do that? You're a scorpion. You're going to sting me." And the scorpion looked at the frog and said, "Why would I sting you? That means we would both die, because you would die and then I would die and drown." Frog thought about it for a while and said, "You're right." So he starts giving him a ride across the river. Then halfway across, the scorpion stings the frog, and the frog looks at the scorpion and says, "Why'd you do that? Now we're both going to die." And the scorpion looked at the frog and said, "I'm a scorpion. That's what I do. I sting people." And that's exactly what this team is. To sit there and ask them to situationally hit, to move runners along, to lay down a bunt, to play small ball. It's an exercise in futility, because that's not what they are. And you can't change them from what they are. You have to just embrace what they are and pray to God they can deliver for what they are. And that's what this offense, to me, is. Sum it up. That's how I'm summing up the offense. Did anybody think when Robbie took over that Girardi think that the Phillies were going to the World Series? No. Absolutely not. No, they were what? 7 games under 500. Sinking like a stone. No, I didn't think that. I thought they were vastly underperforming for whatever reason. Now, did we make a deal with the devil? Because now you have a situation in the clubhouse where the players are entitled or feel like they're in charge. I don't know. But no, I don't think they were ever going to win or get to the World Series with Girardi. Home runs will come. They better, because that's all they're good for. 2010, 12, 14 Giants every other year. Yes. Yeah, but that's not been since 2014. Why are you bringing that up? What players do you think the Phillies should move on from, whether in a trade or free? What players do you think the Phillies should move on from, whether in a trade or in free agency? So are you asking me what players do I think long-term, like to go after and actually fix this team? And if you are, there's 7 players, 7 positions on this team that need a significant upgrade, in my opinion. Third base, second base, the entire outfield, and 2 arms in the bullpen. That's what I think needs to be upgraded on this team. 100%. And also, once you bring those 2 new arms in, you assign roles to the bullpen. But if you're asking me what the holistic fix of this team is for me, there's the upgrades that I want to happen. I need a fix at third base. I need a fix at second base. I need an entire. How did we get to this point where you need a whole new outfield? How does a team, what do they have now, 59 wins or something like that, 57 wins, 55 wins, whatever it is? How are they at this point and they have they don't have anything serviceable in the outfield right now? It's amazing to me. But they need a whole new outfield. They need an upgrade at second and an upgrade at third and 2 arms in the bullpen. And that's what I would be if I had my big old Dave Dombrowski free agency trade board up on my office getting ready for when the leaves start to fall off the tree. Those are the positions I'm looking for, and then I start putting down the players that I'm interested in. So, you're asking me, those are the positions. If the Phillies trade Schwarber, the season is over, and who else is going to hit home runs for us? But again, I just said that. I said it would have to be a haul. I would need at least 2 MLB guys that can come into a lineup and be contact hitters, power hitters, whatever, and maybe some prospects. I'm just saying what Kyle Schwarber provides, which has been the most consistent bat all season long. I'm not taking that away from him. And right now he is an all-star for a reason. But if you're able to flip the table and bring in a 3 to 4 guys, maybe a 4-player trade for Kyle Schwarber, and throw in a prospect, and you can dramatically change the makeup of this lineup in one trade, would that not maybe be better than what Schwarber can provide you currently at this time alone? And it's only for a couple months. He's a free agent at the end of the year. And then when you look at it from that side, we ride Schwarber to the end. We don't win a World Series, and then he walks the hell away, and we get nothing. What is better? What is better for this team? It's a dilemma. It's not a popular decision. And as I said, the city would probably burn if they traded him. But I think it's something that needs to be explored if you're talking about trying to plug multiple holes on this team. Because Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott, Max Kepler are not bringing you back anything in return in trades. And certainly not anything that can help you out and be an upgrade over them. Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, Ranger Suarez, those are the tradable assets on this team. Maybe to a lesser extent, JT. Those are the assets if you're looking to trade other than your top prospects. Those are the assets that you would probably have to move off from to get some significant value in return, with the exception of your top with your top tier prospects, which of course they'll bring back some value. But if you're thinking about trying to plug multiple holes, and for the buffoons out there who think this is a one player away situation, I suggest you sit down and watch some Phillies baseball and really take a deep dive into it, because there's multiple issues with this team offensively. It's, again, criminally unbalanced, and there's going to be multiple people have to come in and fix it. Can it be done? Sure. You got to break some eggs and make an omelet? Sure. Will they do that? Yeah, probably not. It happens often in sports. Craig Berube took over for the Blues and won it all that season. Yeah, Peter. He's citing is absolutely. You catch lightning in the bottle. Didn't Laviolette also take over for the Flyers and lead them into the Stanley Cup Finals? Happens a lot, man. Change of scenery, change of voice, change of philosophy, catching lightning in the bottle. It happens quite a bit. It does. And coaches benefit from that, and they get a second life on the contract or an additional contract to run that through as well. But the way the Phillies have done it, they've rewarded Rob Thompson for regression, which to me is odd. But yeah, no, it happens all the time. I'm not asking you, Matty, if you play quarterback. I'm asking Michael Kaepernick Jr. if you quarterback. Oh, okay. Oh, God forbid you ask me if I don't look like a quarterback. I couldn't play quarterback. Play quarterback. Different era of football, though. Phil Cousy was terrible Monday. Yeah, he was. I looked at the report. I looked at some of the calls. Yeah, he was. I think he missed, I want to say 85%. He was 85% effective in calling strikes and like 94% with, or 91% with balls. Yeah, 85. You got to be better than 85% with strikes. You got to be better. But, and I'll agree with you there, 100%. You got to be better than that. Yeah. But Phil Cousy was horrible. But was Phil Cousy the reason why they scored one run? I mean, come on. You're gonna boil down the game to one inning, the eighth. So what happened to the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and ninth inning? What happened to all those innings and all those chances that they had? We're gonna segregate the game down to one inning and some bad umpiring. Listen, did it help? No. But is it the reason why the Phillies only scored one run? No. Come on, let's be honest, truthful, and fair about this across the board. Middleton, who wants to be Steinbrenner South, and I want my effing title back. Lost his balls after a tough loss last season, allowing Dombrowski to give Robbie an extension and running back with the same team. I don't know if it's that he lost his balls. Listen, Middleton's kind of up in a barrel here. He's given out a lot of contracts. Now, whether or not it was his idea or Dombrowski's, whoever talked him into writing the checks, that's irrelevant. The relevancy is that there was checks given out, and there's some serious money tied up into some people, and you just can't just necessarily walk away from those. You're kind of bound to some players, and that's why when you spend stupid money, it's definitely a double-edged sword, because you get married to these guys, and you're gonna ride or die with them, and it's not as easy as just walking away. It's not as easy as walking away from Bryce Harper. You can't. Who's taking that money on? Nobody. Aaron Nola. No one's taking that money. Zach Wheeler, probably somebody would take that money. But it's not as easy as that to me. You just can't walk away from a 7-year, 13-year contract. Trey Turner, no one's paying that. You're married to these guys. You make a commitment to these guys long term. Now, Dombrowski had to talk Middleton into the commitments. I agree, or most of those commitments. I don't think Harper was his, but had to talk Middleton into those commitments. But it's a double-edged sword. So I'm not blaming the run back thing. The run back thing is something we're stuck with, and we're going to be stuck with. Turner's not going anywhere. Harper's not going anywhere. Nola's not going anywhere. Those players are not going anywhere. Now, we are starting to come out of some of these deals. Schwarber's a free agent. JT's a free agent. Suarez is a free agent now. So there's going to be some wiggle room there to potentially upgrade in those positions. But now you got to replace them. You got to find a DH, or we got to move Harper to DH and then find a first baseman. I mean, there's a lot of work, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse because season's literally, still got a lot of life left. But this offseason, if we have an offseason last year or this year like we had last year, it's over. it's friggin' over, man, because the Phillies are going to have to do some work this offseason. They're going to have to do some work replacing some players and or re-signing some people. I don't know what they're going to have to do, but there's going to be some significant amount of work to be done. First and foremost is deciding whether or not Rob Thompson's the manager because he's going to enter another lame duck season next year, last year of his contract. Do the Phillies invest another 3 years in Rob Thompson? That's probably the first question they're going to have to answer. Then from there, it's about the players. What do we do? Do we upgrade or do we re-sign? So, I don't know if Dave Dombrowski is going to be in charge of all that. I don't see why he wouldn't be, even if they don't win the World Series. I don't know if the Phillies go ahead and fire the entire upper management crust. I think one will get fired, probably Thompson. And then what you do from there is you entrust Dave Dombrowski, which I don't know is the right thing either, to say we have to rebuild this team or retool it. I want to use the right word, retool, with different upgrades and different players. So the real fun work is about to come in the offseason. Phillies only have one legit basher, and his name isn't Harper, it's Schwarber. What's happening in reality and what's actually happening on the field is one thing. What these players are is another thing. Yes, Schwarber's the only one actually doing it, but Harper's a power hitter. Castellanos is a power hitter. JT Realmuto is a power hitter. These are all power hitters by trade. Now, I agree. I 100% agree with you. They're not performing that way, but that's what they are. You have a larger probability of getting Harper to hit 40 home runs in a season than you are going to have Harper hitting 40 doubles in a season. There's a bigger possibility that he's going to hit 40 home runs versus 40 doubles in a season. That's just how that's the type of player he is. Now, you're right. He's not performing that way, but that's the type of player he is. And to think that Bryce Harper has any idea how to situationally hit, that's foolish. Bryce Harper does not know anything about the science of hitting. He knows about the science of exit velo and lift. He does not understand situational hitting, nor does he care to understand it, because no one's ever wanted him to learn it, and no one is ever going to want him to learn how to do it. Again, whether the fact that he's not performing, it's one thing, but that's what he is. He's a power hitter. Well, Matty, you need to put the analyst in a reel and share it. I'll be serious to do that. I don't know, man. I don't know. I've already been exiled off the island, man. Hey, what's going on, Pat? How are you doing? Hope you're enjoying your vacation, if that's what you're at right now. All right, so we're 49 minutes into the program, and we've ranted on about the Phillies, or I have. Let's turn our attention now to the MattyB all-time Phillies trade list, right? We're down to number 2 on the list, and I want to recap 10 through 3 for you right now. We're going to finish it tonight. I've hemmed and hawed about this all long enough, and I'm going to finish this list tonight. So the 10 best trades in Phillies history, according to me, right? This is my own opinion. Number 10 was JT Realmuto from the Marlins for Sanchez and Alfaro. Number 9 was the Cliff Lee trade part 1 from the Indians. Number 8 was Kurt Schilling from the Astros. Number 7, Brad Lidge from the Astros. Number 6, Lenny Dykstra and Roger McDowell from the Mets for Juan Samuel. Number 5, John Kruk from the Padres for Chris James. Number 4, Bobby Abreu from the Rays for Kevin Stocker. And number 3, Roy Halladay from the Blue Jays. So that leaves me with my number 2 trade and my number 1 trade. Both of them are pitchers. Both of them are Hall of Famers. Both of them are all-time Phillies legends. Number 2, Jim Bunning from the Tigers in 1963 for infielder Drew Detmer and right-hand pitcher Jack Hamilton. Do I need to go any further than that? The Phillies gave up nothing and received the second. On some people's list, he's the second best pitcher in Phillies history. Some people like me have him as the third best. Hall of Famer, a true Iron Man. Pitched for some bad Phillies teams, but was a all-time legend in this town, and definitely deserves his placement on my list at number 2. And if it hadn't been for the total icon status of my number 1 pick, he would be a hands down number 1. But Jim Bunning from the Tigers in 1963 is my number 2. And that, of course, leads me to my number 1 trade. And can it be not anything other than Steve Carlton from the Cardinals for Wise? Carlton at the time was maybe 6 years in the league, was a decent quality pitcher. Something happened when he came here, man. And we got him for pennies on the dollar. And it was funny because it was a contract situation. The Cardinals weren't going to sign him. At one time, Jerry Royce and Steve Carlton were both members of the Cardinal rotation. And they both were up for contracts. And the Cardinals owner at the time did not want to pay out these contracts. So he traded both. He traded Royce to the Dodgers and he traded Carlton to the Phillies. Now, can you imagine if they would have held on to Carlton and Royce, if they would have signed them the contracts? St. Louis would have ran the table in the 80s when it came to World Series. They would have had one of the probably premier, most dominant rotations in baseball, especially as we got into the 80s a little bit more when John Tudor sort of, developed, and you had Bruce Sutter coming out of the bullpen. Can you imagine what that Cardinal rotation would have looked like through the early 80s and mid 80s with Jerry Royce and Steve Carlton in it, instead, of course, of them being traded? But Steve Carlton, the greatest left-handed pitcher in baseball history, the greatest left-handed pitcher in Phillies history, a Hall of Fame first ballot inductee, numbers retired, member of the Phillies Hall of Fame, you name it, the greatest pitcher in franchise history, acquired in a trade with the St. Louis Cardinals, is my number 1 trade in Phillies history. Jim Bunning from the Tigers in 63 is my number 2. And that's it. That finishes out MattyB's best Phillies trades of all time list. Done. Sorry that it took me so damn long to get through that. We hemmed and hawed over it for about 3 weeks, but we got to the end. Got to the end. If we trade Schwarber, it would depend on what we're getting back, and I'm not against it. But in my opinion, I think Schwarber won't be traded, as Schwarber is going back to the Cubs. Listen, I agree with what you're saying, and I'm not saying that as a legitimate take. I'm just saying, for what people want in terms of the fix to this team, I don't think it's fixable or doable with what we're trying to offer. I hear people all the time asking, let's trade Alec Bohm. Where the hell are we trading out? For who? For what? Cash considerations? The dreaded player to be named later? We're not trading him for any significant upgrade today. The Phillies don't have assets on this club to trade in order to get assets back. They got prospects, but they don't have assets. And with Kyle Schwarber's contract ending, and I said, I get it. I think he's gone too. I don't think he's coming back. I think he's going to walk in free agency, and I also agree. I think he's going back to the Cubs. But with an opportunity to potentially significantly upgrade multiple spots along your team, maybe you can get both the bullpen guy you want and an offensive help you want through one trade. Why not? Right? And then have that conversation with Schwarber and say, hey, man, you're helping us out, and we'll get you a ring. We'll give you one if we win it. And we'll sit down in the offseason and we'll hammer out a new contract. I mean, it's not such a weird concept, right? And again, I'm not saying they're going to do it. It's not a legitimate offer. It's not a legitimate proposal. It would probably significantly weaken this team more than it would strengthen it. Maybe. I don't know. You would think with the 4th highest payroll in baseball, we could stand losing Kyle Schwarber for a while. But I get it. But I'm just saying, trying to make everybody's expectations more of a reality instead of odd, weird trades involving Alec Bohm and Justin Crawford. Let's look at a viable trade target, a guy that's about to be a free agent, a guy that more than likely may not come back. And that also strengthens it, Michael Papernick. If you trade Schwarber now, at least you get something. You get something for your trouble when he does leave. I mean, I don't know. Would Schwarber Would a Schwarber trade send this train off the tracks? I don't know. But would it strengthen us? I don't know. Thank God I'm not the goddamn GM, because half of them would be gone already. Harper had 2 100-plus RBI seasons in his career. His final season in 2018. In Washington, his first season 19. In Philly, he has not. Yeah, no, it's been a largely not unproductive. It's been a largely missing expectations with Bryce Harper, and I think we can all agree to that. Even I know Bryce Harper has this like inner circle of people that I don't know. You're not allowed to talk negative about him, but you're right. I mean, and I've said this on the show before, Mike. If you could go back in time, do you sign Bryce Harper or do you sign Manny Machado? If you had to redo it, and you could redo it either way, would you still go down the Bryce Harper road, or would you go down Manny Machado's road? I'm just saying. And I get it. I was happy as the next guy when they signed Harper. I was thrilled. But if you could redo it now with hindsight, do you still do it? Or do you not sign either one of them and invest your money elsewhere? Just asking. More breaking news. Fans have a head coach, John Snowden. We're going to do a Flyers look back here soon. As Joe Hale's reporting all kinds of stuff along the ways. 20-hour, 45 double guys with a great patience, play discipline guys, and high walks on base guys. You know who I'm referring to. That's how my lineup would be built. Also, high contract guys who can hit like Luis Arias. Yeah. No, but can those guys, are you talking the long-term fix? Which I agree. There's going to be some serious questions that have to be answered this offseason. I'm not a fan of sluggers who can't hit. We are, or Dave Dombrowski is, John Middleton is, and by de facto, we are. We are. Trade Suarez for Luis. As you can get him for 1-for-1. And that's another situation. And I think it's a legit situation no one's talking about. You do have Suarez, and you do have Schwarber, and you got JT as well. You have 3 players that are going to be free agents at the end of the year. What's the legitimacy of all 3 of them coming back here? I don't think, you can make a case for all 3 to come back. You can also make a case for all 3 not to come back. Well, maybe the exception of Ranger. Well, no, I can make a case for Ranger because of the injuries. But honestly, you got 3 assets right there that are walking at the end of the year. JT might be back because the Phillies may have no other option because they screwed themselves over in the catching department. But you have JT you could move potentially. You have Schwarber you could move potentially, and you have Suarez you can move potentially. Now, they would all be significant hits to this team. And you'd have to move them to contenders because the Oakland A's are not taking any of those players off our hands and giving up assets. They're not going to do that. They don't fit the timelines. So you're going to have to trade them guys to playoff teams or teams that think they can make the playoffs. And that's a double-edged sword too, because you could potentially have to see them again and it could backfire. I get that. But you're looking at 3 significant players that have been significant players on this team for many years will potentially take their services elsewhere next season. Now, you've seen what it's did to the team by losing players like Hoffman and Estevez, which were lesser quality type guys, but it's sent this entire team into a spiral. What is life going to be like without Schwarber, JT, and Suarez? I think that's a significant question to ask. And with the prospects of them potentially walking, do you try to recomp anything for your trouble? I mean, these questions would be easily answered if the Phillies were 39-54 instead of the other way around. I get that. But still, there's a significant change coming to this ball club sooner or later, and it's sooner. So do you try to foster that change? Do you try to goose that change along? Do you try to recomp anything throughout that stuff? I'm just saying, man. I think you got to look at some things. I know there's nothing to do with the Phillies, but the Phoenix Suns have extended. I saw this. Devin Booker, a 2-year contract for $145 million, which is $72.5 million a year for 2 years. Is the NBA a joke, or are we all jokes for not being in the NBA? If I could do it all over again, I'd sign a 2-year, $145 million contract. Are you kidding me? Man, don't hate Michael Kaepernick because Devin Booker is fleecing the Phoenix Suns. Man, 2 years for $72 million. Or 145 million, 2 years, or 72.5 million a year. Man, what I could do with 72. Matter of fact, 2 million. I don't even want 72. Just give me 2 million. I would be set for life if I just had $2 million in cash. Set for life. How do you spend $72 million in a lifetime? How do you do that? It's amazing. I wanted Machado all because of his swing. He's got a much better swing. I didn't want Harper because his violent swing. I knew it would break him down and catch up to him. The last few weeks, we have had people say that he has a violent swing, which is why, yeah, I agree. But I wanted Harper. He was a sexier pick, right? He was a sexier signing. Machado was a little bit of a head case for me. He's kind of a crybaby. But now you look back on it, man. You know, we would have our third base situation under control, right? Is Rhys Hoskins still play for this team if Machado was signed in lieu of Harper? Which I'm not saying is a good thing. I'm just saying, you know, would he still be here? What would this team look like if Machado signed here other than Harper? I mean, does Schwarber come here? Does Turner come here? Does the Phillies fall into this line, or are there other players that would come here for Manny Machado instead of Harper? It was a significant move, it was a significant move to bring Harper here. It was a franchise-altering move for a lot of different ways. Unfortunately, though, man, in my opinion, it hasn't ever really reached the expectation level that everybody put it at. You know, it really hasn't. I think Realmuto will be back on a real team-friendly contract. I think Suarez is going to walk like Schwarber. I know you might be right. I don't know if Realmuto's got many options out there other than the Phillies at this stage of his career. Suarez is going to get a contract, and so is Schwarber. I think you're right. I think if I had to put some money on that, I'd bet this. Absolutely. Harper's a better person. Yeah, again, he's kind of a crybaby. I agree. Hey, Matty, what's going on? Phil's bats woke up this afternoon. They did, Dave, in a tune of 13 runs. 13 runs, 17 hits, 6 for 17 with runners in scoring position. 2 home runs. 12 games now into the second half of the season. And the Phillies are actually, with today's 6 for 17, they rose their RISP in the second half from 200 to 214. They went up 14 points today with the runners in scoring position batting average. And they also raised their runs in the second half to 5 runs per game. The Phillies are scoring 5 runs per game right now through 12 games of the second half, which is interesting. They're still under 5 for the season, but so far, thanks largely to the 2 games where they scored 13 runs, they're scoring 5 runs a game, which is really cool. But no, it did, and it was good to see. But it's too much feast or famine for me, Dave. And I don't know if you can really rely on that come playoff time. I like to have every player available at the trade deadline, not named Wheeler or Sanchez. I would like to have every player available at the trade line. Yeah, no, that's probably legit. Definitely 2 cornerstone players right there. Wheeler's got, I would hope, knock on wood, 2 years left after this. When's his contract expire? 28. Hopefully he's got 2 more dominant years. If I can get 2 more dominant years out of Zach Wheeler, we might be okay. This still might work out. If Michael Jordan played today, I wonder what he would be worth. Oh, God damn. There would be no money. They couldn't afford him. Go look at Mike Trout and Bryce Harper's accolades. A, B, D stats. They basically mimic each other. And I was never on board with bringing Mike Trout here. Absolutely never. No, Trout I was never on board. All right, so we're now over an hour rambling on about the Phillies. Let's get into some other parts of our great program here. Let's do our of the night segment. the of the night segment here on the program. As I said, we talked a few. We were talking. Hang on. We were talking over the last few nights of the potential Phillies draft targets. Profiled about 5 of them, I believe. Let's review them real quickly. We're not going to talk draft prospects tonight, or draft, not prospects, but targets. My number one consideration for the Phillies when they pick at 26 overall on Sunday is the most depleted position in this organization right now. That's catcher. And Luke Stevenson, the catcher from North Carolina, should be on the board at 26. He's the best catcher in this draft. And I think he'll be there at 26. And if the Phillies land at 26 and then look up and there's Luke Stevenson staring at them, I think they would be foolish not to try to take him to replenish, which is probably the weakest position in the entire franchise, entire organization. My number 2 consideration, if Stevenson's not there, would be the 6'8" Kurtz Schoolcraft, left-hand pitcher out of Sunset High School, Oregon, who's throwing at 97 miles an hour at 17 years old. Whenever you can get a 6'8" left-hander who's throwing close to 100 miles an hour at 18, I think that's worth a 26th overall pick on somebody that you can develop through your system. He would have either heady starting ability, or he could be a potential closer of the very distant future, but definitely a closer in the making if you want to go that route. My third choice here would be the outfield first baseman. I guess he kind of projects more as an outfielder, Ethan Conrad of Wake Forest. Lenny Dykstra comps is when I read about him and I look at him, the way he played a lot like Lenny does. He's got some power that he's developing, but he's an all the fields type of hitter, and he's a mucker and a grinder. He's a hustler. I got a Lenny Dykstra vibe going on. I hope he's not like personally like Lenny, but the tools fit what I'm looking for with trying to sort of upset this power heavy nonsense we got going on here. So Ethan Conrad would be my third choice. My fourth choice is a little bit more of a gamble, and that would be Sean Gamble, the shortstop from IMG Academy, Florida. Pulls a lot of Bryson Stott comparisons when it comes to his defense, which is okay for me. The problem I'm having is the comparisons to Bryson Stott's offense. It's all about bat speed with Bryson Stott, or the issue of lack of bat speed. And Sean Gamble is sort of kind of still finding himself offensively. But again, if it's there and he's the only there, I would take it. And then kind of rounding off my list is Slater DeBrom, another Lenny Dykstra-ish type of player, the outfielder from Summit, Oregon. It's all about contact hitting with me. I don't want any more power hitters. I really don't. We need to see this organization with kids who can hit the ball to all fields and run out a ground ball and drop a goddamn punt. And Slater DeBron is that type of contact, all the field type hitter. And then rounding out my draft pool for the first round, Xavier Nieves, the third baseman, again, trying to recomp a position there and trying to restock the third base spot. So there you have it. There's my targets for the first round for the Phillies in this year's draft. We'll see if any of these players come to fruition or if I'm completely off the res. Tonight, though, we're going to focus on a Phillies prospect. That's right. We're back into the prospect realm. Remember, we're in the doldrums of summer, so we're no longer doing drafts. This MLB draft is the last draft. So I don't have any more drafts to talk about. No more players to talk about. The NHL draft is over. MLB draft is about to happen. We're still about a month away before I can start really firing up anything about the Flyers for next season. So we're kind of in a doldrum spot with the of the night segment. I'm looking for some ideas, and the only thing left I have to talk about is Phillies prospects, and I'm getting low on that list too. But before I know it, it'll be time to be time to spotlight the Flyers players for next season, and then right back into the NHL and MLB drafts for 2026. But in the meantime, let's focus our attention on the Phillies and their prospects. And today, Micah Ottenbert, the right-hand pitcher, a 6'4", is still very much the projection right-hander. He was when the Phillies drafted him, and there might be more than in the tank than further removed from elbow surgery. He gets his fastball average at 92, which was last season, which was 2024. and topped out at 95. And he throws it with decent sink, relying more on a weak contact than missing bats. He registers really high spin rates on his breaking stuff, showing an 83-mile-an-hour slider with sweep and an 80-mile-an-hour curve. And while he misses bats with both, they can run into each other in a slurvy way. He can kill spin with his changeup, and he can get it hit if he leaves it up. So Michael Ottenbritt definitely has some injury issues. I think he's actually hurt right now too. A project player, I think currently ranked 18th in the Phillies minor league system. He's your Philly prospect of the night, of the night segment. Good stuff. We'll show him off. All right, Mike, you have a good night, man. Will the Flyers? Yes, it will be live. It'll be live. We'll do a live show for that. All right, let's finish it up with my favorite part of the night. All right, my card review segment. This is the usually how we end the show. Talking modern day baseball cards lately, and we're staying in that theme. Last night we talked about the 2020 or 2019 Fernando Tatis Jr. rookie card from Top Series 2. We're staying in 2019, but we're not going tops. We're going Prism and Panini tonight. So this card is of a pitcher who's had a very, very interesting career up to this point, mired in injury, mired in just brilliance when he is not hurt. Definitely one of the more dominant pitchers of this era. But the epitaph on him will probably always be he's just couldn't stay away from Tommy John surgery. And you know what? I got to hand it to him. I think he's had 3 of them now, and he keeps coming back, and he keeps doing what he's got to do. He's an all-star this year. He plays for the Rangers, and I think you know who I'm speaking of. And that, of course, is Jacob deGrom. This is his 2019 Prism Panini card. Now, this is not the exact card I have. I have the Brilliance one. This is a standard base Prism. I have the one that's the Brilliance variety. But this card in itself, I kind of like what Panini did with these cards with Prism. I like the layout here. I'm a big fan of the digital layouts. I really am. And when they get kind of freaky with them, it's pretty cool. This one, again, this is more of a base version of the card I have. I have this card in the Brilliance variety, and I'll show you the difference here in a second. But Jacob deGrom, by some surprise to me, still has some value in his baseball cards. This card in itself right now, ungraded, legitimately is about a $10 baseball card. There's people selling this card right now on eBay for $60, and they're getting offers on it, which I find interesting for a pitcher that's really, again, at the end of the day with him, it's going to go back to the injuries and what could have been without those injuries. But he's a dominant pitcher when healthy. And his baseball cards still have relevance. And I like the layout of this card. I like how Panini did it in 2019 with their Prisms. Really fun card. And I'm going to show you what the one I have. Again, here's mine. And you notice the word Brilliance written off the top of it. That's the variety of the card I have, the variant, I guess you could call it. And again, this card legitimately $10 on most reputable databases. But there's people on eBay right now selling this card for $60, and they're getting offers, or they're getting views and bids. They're not necessarily selling them, but there's people talking about it. And I find it very interesting that a Jacob deGrom 2019 baseball card still has some value. And again, he's an all-star again this year. He made it for the American League with Texas, as he's back from, I think, again, his 3rd Tommy John surgery. And his cards continue to have value. So there you have it. The 2019 Jacob deGrom Prism Panini variant. I have his rookie card. What is it, 2017? 2018? Something like that. You should look it up. I bet you it has some money still to it. I think I might have a deGrom rookie laying around here somewhere too. All right, everybody, that is it. That's going to wrap me up tonight, and that's probably going to wrap me up. I ain't gonna lie, it's probably going to wrap me up for the week. I probably won't be back again until Sunday. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if I'll make Sunday. No, I don't think. Oh yeah, I should make Sunday. Yeah, Sunday should be fine. But for for most intensive purposes, this is going to wrap me up for the week. But you'll be seeing me again. I have heavy Fightings final duty this weekend. Al's going to come at you tomorrow night for the series opener in San Diego. Then I got you all weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I will have Fightings final duty. Of course, on Sunday we'll do our Down the Phillies Farm Report, all those great things that we do on that program. So make sure you're keeping an eye out for that at least. And then I should be back Sunday night. Now, it's going to be sort of I don't know if I'll do a show Sunday night because the game on Sundays at 4 o'clock. So the Fightings final will be about 7. Yeah, I'll probably still come back on. We'll shoot for Sunday night. But don't forget this weekend, tomorrow night at 10:30 is the wraparound with Pat Bernard. But I think Mike Lauro is in for Pat this week. Tomorrow night also is the attacking third. I don't know what they're doing. I haven't heard what they're doing with it. Maybe Steve runs solo. So far, I'm tracking that it's going to be on. I don't know how they're going to do it, but on Sunday morning, it'll be Mike Lauro and Big Al coming at you for the PNM and the AM program. So we still have you covered for the weekend. So make sure you're looking out for us, keeping tuned in, and make sure you're helping us out in any way you can. Good show as always. Thank you, Joe Hale. Sunday night, if you can, if you can do, we can talk. And that's another thing is that I know the draft is at 6 o'clock on Sunday. The problem's going to be walking in between the raindrops of the draft, the Fightings final, and this show. And I don't know if I'll be home in time for the draft. So I know I spoke somewhat of being able to do a draft show. Maybe it was, as you said, Joe, maybe we'll pick it up. Maybe I'll pick it up during the Fightings final. We'll see what we can incorporate the draft somehow, somewhere into Sunday night. But we will talk MLB draft. I'm interested to see where Ethan Halladay goes, and obviously interested to see who the Phillies take at 26 and see what kind of moves they make. But and I do, we weren't able to do the NHL draft because I had another commitment, and I'm not going to be able to do looking like the MLB draft. I got to do better with that next year. We got to try to carve out some time, but because I spent a lot of time talking about these guys throughout the year, and it seems somewhat of a waste of time that I don't have an opportunity to talk about them on draft night. But we'll work on that. But as I said, we'll find a way to incorporate some draft talk into Sunday. And then next week, don't forget our Flyers season in review show and the Phillies at the midway point. We'll also, which is a very special show on the network because if you watch the Fightings final, we never do it. We always do the shows alone. It's one guy. But when we do our review show or check-in show, whatever, midpoint show, we all come together and we do that show together. We also do the preview show together, and then we do the end of season show together, and then we pair up for the playoffs. But largely throughout the season, we're by ourselves. So we get the opportunity to come back together and talk, sort of compare notes of what we have experienced covering the Phillies through the first half of the season. So it's pretty fun. And that will be next week at some point to fill in the blanks for no baseball. But until we talk again sometime this weekend, and make sure you're checking out all the other programs. You guys have a great night and even better tomorrow. I will talk to you from the Fightings final on Saturday. Good night.